This video will help with understanding the process of urine formation that can be divided into filtration, reabsorption, secretion, and water conservation. Only filtration and reabsorption will be discussed in detail here. As blood flows into the glomerulus through tiny capillaries, high pressure forces plasma out of the blood and into Bowman's capsule. This process is known as filtration. During this filtration process, substances are separated based on their size and charge. Substances that are small enough to pass through the filtration membrane, such as water, glucose, amino acids, electrolytes, and waste products like urea and creatinine, are filtered out of the blood and into the capsule. On the other hand, larger molecules like proteins and blood cells are too large to pass through the filtration membrane and remain in the capillary. These substances are important for the body and should not be excreted in the urine. Filtrate is the term given to the initial fluid formed in the kidneys. The filtration membrane acts as a selective barrier to ensure that the essential components stay in the blood. You can think of the filtration process by the glomerular capillary to act as a sieve, allowing water and small solutes to pass while holding back larger particles such as albumin. Reabsorption refers to that which has been filtered, which will be brought back into the body, thus reabsorbed. It is necessary to maintain the body's balance of fluid and electrolytes. As blood flows through the nephron, valuable substances like water, glucose, and salts are reabsorbed back into the bloodstream to be utilized by the body. This process ensures that essential nutrients are not lost in the urine and are retained for the body's functions. Through reabsorption, the kidneys can regulate the concentration of substances in the blood. The process of secretion involves the nephron selectively moving certain substances like hydrogen ions, potassium ions, and drugs from the body into the urine to be eliminated by our bodies. By carefully controlling what gets secreted, our kidneys play a vital role in maintaining our internal environment and maintaining homeostasis. Lastly, water conservation plays a crucial role in maintaining the body's fluid balance. The nephron ensures that the right amount of water is retained in the body to prevent dehydration. By regulating the concentration of urine produced, the nephron helps maintain proper hydration levels. This slide is a good one to study and learn the process just described and includes a basic illustration. It is recommended that you draw a nephron and label where the 4 steps happen and include the details of which substances are being removed versus the substances that will be returned to the blood. The process of filtration was already introduced. This slide includes information about which substances will be filtered, such as glucose, amino acids, various ions, etc. Please note that optimally, glucose is conserved at 100%, as this molecule that starts the process of glycolysis is too important to lose from the body. Filtrate is the name given to the product formed from the filtration process. It is similar to blood plasma, but lacks proteins such as albumin. This image clearly illustrates the special features found in the glomerular capillary, which make the process of plasma filtration possible. As already discussed, the glomerular capillary is a specialized type of blood vessel known as a fenestrated capillary, which means it has tiny pores or holes that allow small molecules like water, ions, and waste products to pass through while retaining larger molecules like proteins and blood cells. Surrounding the capillary is the basement membrane, a thin structure that acts as a filter to prevent larger substances from passing through. Additionally, podocytes, which are specialized cells in the kidney, have finger-like projections called foot processes that wrap around the capillaries, creating small gaps known as filtration slits that further regulate the passage of substances. Together, these components work in harmony to ensure that only the necessary components are filtered into the kidney tubules for further processing and waste removal. The process of tubular reabsorption requires transport of solutes and water across the membranes of the tubular epithelial cells, the cytoplasm of these cells, and the basolateral membrane. Specific transport mechanisms such as passive diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and active transport are utilized for different particles and water molecules to move across the membranes. For instance, sodium ions are actively transported out of the tubular lumen by the sodium-potassium pump located on the basolateral membrane, creating a concentration gradient that drives the reabsorption of other substances like glucose and amino acids by secondary active transport. Water molecules are reabsorbed through osmosis by following the movement of solutes. 65% of the filtrate gets reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule. This part of the nephron is packed with mitochondria needed to carry out the active transport mechanism required for substances to cross the membrane and back into the peritubular capillaries. The routes taken for reabsorption can be for the substance to pass through the epithelial cells of the tubule, the transcellular route, or in between the cells, the pericellular route. This is a very helpful diagram to look at when learning how the various particles and water passes from the renal tubule to the peritubular capillary. It also highlights the 3 separate compartments mentioned in a previous video that includes the space in the capillary. It also shows the interstitial fluid and the tubule. Please note that the tubule is further illustrated to show the space where tubular fluid is found and the epithelial arrangement of cells at the surface. As the filtrate from the glomerulus flows through the tubule, specialized cells lining the tubule actively transport essential molecules like glucose, amino acids, and ions back into the blood. This active pumping creates an osmotic gradient that causes water to passively follow the solutes through the aquaporin channels in the cell membrane, effectively reabsorbing water back into the blood. Also note that the chemical reaction occurring here, this should be familiar from the respiratory system and explains how carbon dioxide is converted to bicarbonate and ions of hydrogen, and this increases the number of hydrogen ions, and if you do that, you decrease pH, so become more acidic. This slide summarizes some of the important substances that are reabsorbed into the capillaries and the method of reabsorption.